are here to watch this program because you are a caregiver. As a caregiver, you take care of family or friends who have an illness, injury, or other serious long-term problem. You show your love and affection through your caregiving. But because of you, the care receiver can stay at home longer and will function better for a longer period of time. And in some cases, your care delays the cost of a nursing home. Today, more of the elderly are cared for within families than in institutions such as nursing homes. As a caregiver, you spend 25 to 30 hours a week on everything from feeding and dressing to transporting the care receiver. Being a caregiver is often equal to having a full-time job, but without the benefits of vacation, sick leave, or coffee breaks. The great demands of this job may cause you to feel depressed, misuse drugs or alcohol, develop physical problems, neglect yourself, or even harm the one that you're caring for. However, by receiving training and learning as much as you can about being a caregiver, you can avoid many, if not all, of these problems. This training will teach you, 1, to understand your loved one, 2, to understand your job or role as a caregiver, 3, how to manage the various emotional, physical, legal, financial, and other problems you now face, and 4, teach you what professional help is available to you and how you can make the most use of that help. Remember, it's important to care for yourself and to use what you learn. After all, you deserve the best. This videotape series, Caring for the Family Caregiver, will help you to get the information and training that you need as a caregiver.
The Western Kentucky University Gerontology Program presents Living with Stress.
Stress is a fact of life when you are a caregiver. You worry about the well-being of the person you are caring for. You're under pressure to do a great many tasks, often without the resources to accomplish them. This particular videotape is designed to introduce you to several ways to reduce stress. You begin by recognizing where stress comes from. Those unpleasant feelings of tension or stress come from trying to do too many things at once, having drastic changes in your life, or facing many minor problems. Although caregiving can be very rewarding, the needs of the care receiver can absorb much of your time, energy, money, and other resources. You may not be able to fulfill your other duties, parent, spouse, employee, volunteer, etc. You may even neglect your own physical and emotional needs. Although you might succeed in attending to all of those demands, it may be at a cost to your own sense of well-being and physical health. Prolonged stress is a known contributor to 6 of the leading causes of death. Now, for the good news, if stress is recognized early, you can cope with or reduce its effects. You can remove yourself from the stress temporarily, and you can renew yourself. How do you learn to recognize stress? Well, that can be a little tough because everyone responds to stress differently. To learn how you react, pick out a recent situation that caused you to feel tensed or stressed. It may be a wedding, a financial problem, an illness, or the time you chaired a fundraising project. Let's avoid caregiving situations for now. Now, please think of one such stressful situation. As you think about that situation, how did you feel physically? Were your shoulders tense? Did you have headaches, a rash, or some other physical problem? How did you feel emotionally? Some people become more irritable or frustrated under stress. They may feel overwhelmed, depressed, or guilty. Some may even feel all 3 at once. How about you? Did any of your habits change during that time? Did you eat more or less? Did your sleep patterns change any? Now, think of one of your duties as a caregiver. It may be paying bills for the care receiver, driving to the doctor, or talking to the family about caregiving. Now, ask yourself the same questions. How do you feel physically in this situation? How do you feel emotionally? Has your behavior changed since you began caregiving? Some of you may have similar reactions in both situations, feeling overwhelmed or frustrated in both. Others of you may discover you react differently depending on the situation, getting headaches in one and feeling sad in the other. Feelings may vary in strength or may be mixed up and confused. When you begin to feel the way you just described, you're beginning to feel the effects of stress. And these are your signs of stress.
Well, you get flustered. You feel depressed. The least little thing that wouldn't normally matter will make you want to cry, make you want to scream. And you get to the point where if you could just get in the car and drive or just go somewhere. And when you get those feelings, it's time to talk to somebody or just have a good old cry.
The times when I would feel that I was really burning the candle at both ends, you might say, and being really stressed would be when I would start a project and then go off someplace else to do something else, and then almost get to the point that I'd forget to go back and finish the first thing. That I noticed that there was a lot of going around in circles, and many times not being as efficient as I normally am because of all the things that I had to do.
Some of you may already be coping well and therefore have less intense feelings. A few of you may be burned out from caregiving. Burnout means being physically and emotionally exhausted. Often such a person does not even have the energy to care about themselves. If you're saying to yourself, "Why should I bother asking myself these questions?" you may be experiencing burnout without even knowing it. Perhaps you may not be used to thinking about feelings. Therefore, you may not be able to identify any particular reactions at all. Learning to recognize your feelings can take time and may not be helpful for everyone. For many, nevertheless, it's a first step toward learning to cope with stress. Pause for a moment and think of 3 ways stress affects you, either physically, emotionally, or behaviorally. Then discuss your experience with other participants. When you are through, start this tape again. You may stop the tape now. Welcome back. I hope you've thought of some ways stress affects you and how you can recognize its influence on you. Understanding stress's effect on you is only the first step. What you need to know next is how you can cope or deal with and reduce the effects of caregiving stress. You need to remember 2 things about coping. First, there are as many ways to cope as there are people. Some caregivers need relief daily, others weekly. Some like to talk to friends or counselors about their feelings. Others just want to be alone. Some caregivers use professionals, such as social workers or home health care workers, for help with various tasks. Others may rely on informal networks of family and friends. Still others try to do it all alone, but usually they are more stressed. You must learn what keeps you healthy and happy. The second thing to remember is that coping needs to be done as regularly as eating or sleeping. A garden needs regular watering in order to live. You need to regularly deal with stressful events. What particular method for dealing with your stress are you using? Is it working successfully? Some people try to reduce stress by using drugs or alcohol. In the long run, this usually causes more stress and problems. There are many other methods you can regularly use to help you feel better physically and emotionally. Most coping methods can be grouped into approaches involving 1. Recognition and planning, 2. Reduction, 3. Removal, and 4. Renewal. Recognizing stress early will help you know when to use your ways of coping. The more information you have about a situation or illness, the better you can plan ahead and avoid stresses before they happen.
We had to figure through a gastric tube. So when I had to leave, I typed out instructions and taped them to the kitchen cabinet, the door of the kitchen cabinet, on what to feed her, how to feed her, and when to feed her, and when to do this and when to do that. And then I have a list I still keep that in case of emergency, who to call, who to notify, and so forth. I also have 2 neighbors that has that in an envelope in case somebody should find me sometime.
Another thing we did do, we had a 2-door car, and she is so feeble that it was almost impossible to get her in and out of the back seat, so we traded for a 4-door car, and now that's easier, you know, to take her places.
Joanne, the nurse, brought me some books to read on, you know, death and what to expect, the things that would happen, you know, as the death process took place. That helped a lot, to know what to watch for.
If you can recognize how you feel physically or emotionally in the early stages of a stressful situation, you can then do something to head off worse problems. For example, you may learn that tension in your neck or a sense of frustration may be signs of worse feelings to come, such as a headache or chest pains. And unless you do something to physically relax, such as lie down or exercise, your problem may not only continue, but dramatically increase. However, some types of stress sneak up on you. For example, an extra trip to the doctor or doing an extra load of laundry. It's no big deal once. However, when you have extra chores over a long time, they can cost you significant time and energy. When you anticipate what might cause you stress, you can plan ahead to reduce that strain. You might ask someone else to help with the laundry. To better deal with a problem, try reaching out to friends as well as professionals. They may be able to give you additional information or insight that will help you tremendously. They may even have faced a similar problem and already come up with a solution. If you plan a garden, carefully judging the weather and soil, selecting appropriate tools and seeds, and getting good advice and information, what happens? You'll usually have a better garden with fewer problems. Well, in the same way, you can avoid some of the problems and stress of caregiving and have a better life for yourself and the person that you care for. How can that be accomplished? By recognizing the coming stress, planning ahead, and learning about your role as a caregiver and the needs of your patient or loved one. For example, you may learn that the disease will cause your care receiver to need 24-hour professional care, more than you can handle in the family. Early on, you can begin to look at options and costs of home care help or nursing homes. You can talk it over with family members before the situation becomes urgent and before the stress overwhelms your ability to judge. Caregivers who do not plan ahead may be in a panic trying to find help and money to cover costs at the last minute. Besides this videotape series and other similar training programs, a good source of information and help is a support group. That's persons coping with a particular disease often form organizations and support groups. These groups help you to learn about the disease, how to care for a person who has it, and what to expect so you can better plan the future. You may already have an informal support group among your friends, or you may know of a more formal organization, such as the Alzheimer's Disease and Related Disorders Association, which is for caregivers of persons with Alzheimer's. Your area agency on aging may be able to give you an address and phone number for a group dealing with a disease of concern to you. Such groups can provide you, as a caregiver, with further knowledge and skills about caregiving, show you that you're not alone, and give you social and emotional support. Such a group can help you plan for the future. For example, by helping you select a nursing home when and if it's needed, or working through financial planning with you. Thus, recognition gives you advance warning so you can start to cope early. The second area of coping for caregivers is reduction. All too often people add responsibilities without ever reducing other duties. At some point they become overwhelmed and perhaps unable to meet any of their obligations. For some of you, dropping a few responsibilities and making your workload more realistic may be the best way to reduce. After all, a gardener with too many gardens loses some of the crop, loses the pleasure of gardening, and develops a real pain in the neck, the back, the knees.
But it does bother me because I like to keep the nest neatly, and I can't do that, so I've kind of sacrificed that, really. But our house is very livable.
I missed quite a bit of work, but they were good about that. Where I work, they're real good about, you know, letting you off in time of illness.
Delegating, or giving some jobs to others. It's one way of lessening responsibilities. Before you do anything, ask yourself if someone else could do the job acceptably. You may want or need to call on family members or use professional help. Some programs that can provide help are home health care, community care for the elderly, senior companions, nursing homes, Meals on Wheels, and hospice care for the terminally ill. I want you to stop the tape in just a moment. When you do, try to list 3 to 5 responsibilities you have now that you can delegate to someone else, even if it's only temporarily or occasionally. Beside each item you list, place the name of a person or group to whom that responsibility can probably be given. You may stop the tape now. I hope you were all able to find several things that you can delegate. When you go back home, try giving those responsibilities to someone for a while. I'll bet you'll be surprised by how much that can help. So remember that by either dropping a few responsibilities or by delegating some of your work to others, you can experience a reduction of your work tensions or stress. The third way of coping, removing yourself from the caregiver role, is very important in preventing burnout and feelings of stress. You need to be someone other than a caregiver occasionally. You need to be yourself for an hour, a day, or a week. Many caregivers tell of the importance of getting away for a while. Some rely on professional support or home health workers. Some long-term care facilities accept persons for short periods while the caregivers are not available. In some towns, daycare is also available for the elderly who may need supervision. You may want to contact your area agency on aging for a list of resources in your area. Other caregivers call on family or friends to come in so they can go out and have fun, talk to people, or relax in other ways. It's important to develop a network of substitute caregivers. This is vital, not only for your own health and well-being, but also because your care receiver is vulnerable if something happens to you. Who's there to take care of your parent, your spouse, or your friend if you are unavailable?
Well, I found out one thing, that when you need help, you can get it. There will be people who will come and help you. I cannot see how anyone, and this I'm not preaching religion, but how anyone can get along without a church family, because on weekends we had from 10 to 14 people in and out of that house from Friday night till Sunday afternoon helping take care of her. So it brought a lot of people a lot closer together. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It showed love in the greatest way from all of them.
They've got people that will come if you need to go to the grocery, that can come and sit with the person, or if you need to go to the beauty shop, or if they need medication. They've got people now, I think, that would come and administer that for you, and would really take a lot of the stress and strain off of the caregiver.
When asking for help, it often works best to phrase the request so it begins with an I, and then make a specific request. For example, I want to go out for a while. Will you sit with Mother on Thursday from 2 until 4? You're more likely to get help with a specific request than you are a vague question like, would you come over sometime and sit? Let's pause again and take some time to come up with at least one way you can remove yourself from the caregiving role during the next week. If you decide to ask for help, practice how you would do it. Be specific. Some people have a lot of trouble asking. That's why you need to practice and to try out different approaches. If this will be a new experience for you, try role-playing the situation by practicing what you will say with the person sitting next to you. Ask them how you came across. Did you sound unsure, bossy, or appropriate? You may stop the tape now and make your plans. Don't forget, be specific. Well, how did it go? Take those plans home with you and do them as quickly as you can. It is important to take action immediately while your plan is fresh and you are eager. So far, we've talked about 3 of the 4 approaches to coping with stress: recognition and planning, reduction, and removal. Finally, you need to renew yourself physically and emotionally. For many caregivers, talking about their experiences to an understanding listener is very important. Having a support group or even visiting a therapist or pastor may be a good way of renewing yourself for your work. You may enjoy some physical activity, such as walking, bowling, swimming, or horseback riding.
I joined the bowling league. The nurse that come in, I said, maybe that sounds selfish. She said, no, that you need time for yourself. So I joined this bowling league, and one or two nights a friend came, and then as my mother got worse, the nurse would come and stay with her while I went for about 3 hours and bowl, and I felt comfortable doing this. And I could go out, like this best friend of mine bowled too. She said what made her feel so good, I could go out there and I could dismiss anything that was happening. So I could go out there and really enjoy myself and completely put that out of my mind. And that helped to get away a little while and do things like that. And then I was able to go back and go right on with it.
So I deal with stress by getting away of evenings, by taking a nap when I can, when my mother does, and by going off to the various meetings, community and church-wise. Those are 3 basic ways, I guess, I deal with stress. And then I guess I psych myself up by reminding myself that it could be worse.
When I get home, instead of going straight to the house, I change clothes, I go and saddle up my horse, and I go for a horseback ride. Just me and my horse. And you can do a lot of thinking, and it will ease a lot of tension. And I imagine you could do the same thing with golf, tennis, you know, any kind of exercise.
But when you can't talk to someone or get away to do something active, you may want to try a slow breathing exercise to help you relax physically and calm down mentally. This can be done without ever leaving your home. In fact, let's try it right now. Move into a comfortable position and follow along with the instructions.
I want you to shut your eyes now so you can concentrate on your physical feelings. First, notice how your shoulders and your chest feel right now. When you're ready, take a deep breath, filling your lungs, breathing in through your nose, and hold it, counting to about 10. Now, breathe out slowly through your mouth, counting to about 20. Pay attention to how your body feels as you're doing this, how the muscles feel as they relax more and more. Now again, take a deep breath through your nose, fill your lungs, counting to about 10. And then slowly out through your mouth, taking about twice as long. Again, notice your shoulder and your chest muscles. See if they're relaxing. Sit with your eyes shut for a moment and breathe slowly, taking time to enjoy the sensation of relaxing. Some of you might like to try this lying down at home, but it can be done anywhere when you have a few moments to sit. This kind of exercise can be a way of taking a vacation without actually leaving. You take one in your mind, kind of like daydreaming. You may want to pretend you're alone at a beach and can feel the warm sun and sand and hear the rhythm of the waves. You may have another image you like, such as a warm bath, floating in a boat, or laying in a field of flowers. If you try picturing one of these scenes, make it as real as possible. Just enjoy the sensation of relaxing for a few seconds.
I hope you enjoyed that. Do you see the benefit of doing something like this regularly? Try to do it every time you start to feel tense or stressed. You'll feel better if you do this regularly. Prolonged stress can produce unpleasant feelings and physical problems, but it doesn't have to. You need to remember that understanding stress, while it's important, is only the first step. You'll need to take some kind of action to actually reduce the stress. To do this, you can learn to recognize how you react to pressures and plan how to cope with it. You can then try to reduce your duties when they get to be too much. This can be done by dropping or by delegating some responsibilities. You can also temporarily remove yourself from the pressure of caregiving. And finally, you can renew yourself physically and emotionally by talking with someone, reaching out to a support group or person, doing a different activity for a while, or perhaps by helping yourself to relax with deep breathing exercises or quiet pauses. Even though there are many ways to cope with stress, you need to find a method that works for you and practice it regularly. Otherwise, neither you nor your care receiver will be the kind of person you want or need to be. Good luck and keep up the good work.
There are no easy answers to this, I don't think. No simple solutions, because 1,001 times I've tried to figure out a good way to put my mother back in her home with help, but it's not all that easy.
The experiences with caring for these ladies have been rewarding in many cases because of the closeness to them and the feelings that I have gotten that I have been useful to them and maybe repaying them for some of the joys and the care that they have given me in my lifetime. And I'm very proud of my mother. She's a very special lady, and to be able to be close to her is extremely rewarding for not only myself but for the rest of my immediate family.
As far as caregiving goes, as I said before, you do what you have to do, and you do it to the best of your ability without begrudging a minute of it.